Visiting yesterday during a business meeting that we had around 2:30 to 3 o'clock, and I asked him if it would be feasible for a small operator to join y'all's seminar that you have going on out there, your training camp. And he said he thought that would be a good deal. So I'm going to run through a slide. My name is Steve Smith, and I am the Vice President of Operations for Harding Company, and I'm also a partner in Harding Energy Partners as well. We are a small independent operator. I've personally been in the oil and gas business for over 30 years, 3 generations in the business. And I'm currently sitting out at a drill site that's in South Texas. There is a drilling rig right out here behind me, and I'm sitting in the company man's trailer headquarters. We are completing a well right up the road, so I am very, very remote, and I apologize about any of the inconvenience that we may have. I'm going to start this presentation. Basically want to start out with talking about an independent operator. We contribute and find about 80% of the oil and gas that's found domestically here in the United States comes from us independent operators. It does not come from the big guys, the Shells, the ExxonMobil, the Chevrons, what I call the big players. It comes from us little guys. And the way we start out with it is we have ideas, and we actually lease land and go through a seismic deal. So I'm going to show y'all a presentation. We've been extremely busy the last 10 years in the Barnett Shale here in Texas, which is one of the largest gas plays in the United States. It's an unconventional shale play, and through the technology that we have developed in this play over the last 10 years with horizontal drilling and frac techniques and stuff, we've actually increased such our gas supply that where now our prices are well below $3 per MCF. And it's really been affecting our business now, but hopefully the supply and demand will catch back up where it will be more economical and productive. Right now the economics of Barnett Shale wells at $3 gas is not very good, but the drilling to drill these wells and complete them, we're seeing about 35 to 40% price reduction. So a lot of us are still out there drilling and producing as well. So I'm going to go through a general slide that I show typically from new beginners that don't know anything about the oil and gas business. The last 4 years I've been lecturing here around the Metroplex of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's around 6 million people here, so we have to educate colleges, universities, schools. We have to educate all the cities. I've been involved in 25 different cities. Dallas was the largest. I think this part of this presentation is at Dallas. DDJet was a partnership that we had with ExxonMobil. I'm going through these slides fairly quickly because I'm only allowed 30 minutes with this presentation, and Dr. Shaggy, I apologize if I run over it. I'm going to try to hold it to that 30-minute time period. We've been around 55 years in the business. These are just some slides. We have a very good clean record with the Texas Commission, TCEQ folks, which that's who takes care of all of our water rights here in Texas, and also the Railroad Commission, which is our governing body for the all oil and gas. We were in the news quite a bit, being around in the urban area, because we were drilling in people's backyards, 300 feet from people's houses. It was very rare and unusual for the Dallas-Fort Worth area to see some of this stuff. So a lot of educating and pre-planning took place. This is one of the Congressmen, Joe Barton, and myself on one of the sites. That's Rick Harding there on the far left-hand side of your screen. We actually had a lot of the politicians would come down to help educate them of what's going on, because a lot of these people were writing ordinances for us to govern our business, and they really didn't know anything about the business. We formed a partnership with ExxonMobil, and finally we were able to talk about it publicly. ExxonMobil is a very, very large company, as most of you know. They got into the Barnett Shale with us, and the interesting story of how they got in, we found that they had a pipeline right in the heart of a play that they didn't realize was theirs. We identified the pipeline. Again, this is a benefit of being a small independent. We get on the ground and get to mix and mingle with the local people and really understand things that have assets out there that some of the larger companies, there have been a lot of merging and acquisitions that's taken place. And what happened with ExxonMobil, this was an old Magnolia purchase that they had left on the books at zero asset value. and we put it into play and eventually sold out our partnership about 2 weeks before the crash hit in October of last year. So we were very, very fortunate. As independent operators, we always try to start off with a strategy and end with an exit strategy of going in and out of different plays. And a lot of times the major companies or larger independents will start over and take up where we have actually left off. What we like to do first is we start off with the geology. This is a map of the United States. It talks about all the shale plays that has been documented all over the United States. You can see how big the Barnett Shale is there. There's also a huge play that's going on up in the Devonian, Ohio area. That's the Marcellus. That's about 95,000 square miles now. So it's another thing that's really, really hot. There's also a Haynesville play that's over here in East Texas and northwest Louisiana that's really picking up. These are all unconventional shale plays, and through the technology of developing the frac simulations and also horizontal drilling, we've been able to really capture a lot of the gas in place, but still we're only getting around anywhere from 10% to 16% of the gas that's in place. Most people in the world think that whenever you find oil and gas, it's sitting in the rocks real nice and easy to extract, and they don't realize that we don't really get 100% of the products that are down there. So there are some additional technology that has taken place here in the Barnett. Some of the other independents are actually doing what's called simul-fracs, which I'll get to that a little bit later in our slides. It's where you drill these wells, the laterals 300 to 400 feet, and you're fracking multiple wells on pad sites. This is a little bit of history about the Barnett Shale. You see it originated back in '82. And it's ramped up considerably up into 2009. We had well over 200 rigs running right in the Metroplex area, and we've dropped by around 50% of that since that time period. The reason this ramp up took place is simply because of technology. Large fracs and horizontal drilling is what really kicked off the Barnett Shale. This is an isopack. Some of you may be familiar with this. This is geology about where the Barnett Shale sits in reference to Tarrant and Dallas County. Again, Tarrant and Dallas County, there's about 6 million people that's there. We're sitting right in the heart of that. This is a geologic map of the Ouachita Overthrust. This is what sets up the flanking of the Barnett Shale going east. This mountain range actually outcrops up into the Arkansas, Oklahoma borders over to the east. But that is the pinch out of the Barnett Shale. This is another cross section of it. You can kind of see the different formations. Originally, people drilled vertical wells, and they were not that economical. Most people drilled through the Barnett Reservoir years ago and always saw the gas, but just didn't really know how to get it out of the ground. And it wasn't until we started going horizontal that we really started fracking these wells and doing horizontal placement that we were able to really make some very good wells. Most of the Barnett wells should generate in around the neighborhood of 2 BCF to 5 BCF well. That's the cubic foot of gas. And again, we're drilling laterals of anywhere from 1,500 foot to 7,500 feet. It's the longest that I'm aware of. Most people drill somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 to 4,000 feet. And all this is taking place about 1.5 miles below the ground. As you can see with this picture, we are actually literally drilling between underneath people's houses, and each one of those people will have their mineral interest in those wells. So it is really, it's a huge nightmare for a person to have to go out and lease each one of those individual houses, because they could be 2/10 of a lot. And that creates lots of problems. You've got to get subordination on all the mortgages as well, because if one person loses their house, then it breaks that whole barrier there of what you can produce, and you actually have to shut the well in. So there's a lot of activity that's going on with that. These are different horizontal laterals, vertical stacked laterals, opposing laterals. This is some additional technology that's come through. What we like to do is we start off with seismic. Some people used to call these doodle bugs in the old days. They're seismic trucks. You can see a recording device over in the lower right-hand side. They will actually put their hydraulic device on the ground and vibrate the earth, and the recording sounds coming back up through the earth, and they record the transit time to give us some kind of idea about what the rock matrix are below the surface. And this is what a seismic line looks like. We tell people a lot of this is just like the MRIs that people have with brain scans or body scans. It works in a similar way. You can also monitor your well and help control where you're drilling to stay in this reservoir, because you want to stay in the Barnett, because down the bottom of the Barnett in some areas, you do not have a frac barrier. There's a zone called the Ellenberger that you couldn't actually frac into. And the water comes out of the Ellenberger, which makes it very uneconomical. This is what I'm talking about here. You see an area there. This well was one of the Oryx wells drilled back in the early 50s. They seen the Barnett, but they drilled right smack into the middle of a karst, is what that's called, or cavern. And in doing so, it all actually communicated with the Ellenberger. What we'd like to see is good, clean seismic that you see over here on the left side of your screen, so you don't have to worry about that. You get good frac jobs. It all stays within the matrix of the rock, and hopefully not become any reservoir. We're governed by the Texas Railroad Commission. There's websites. We tell people that it's all public data. Everything we have to do is documented publicly, so anybody can go there and pull up their own information off of that. They don't have to take our word. Same way with the TCEQ. One thing we did get involved with in the urban environment was the urban operations. And that's where the cities get involved with controlling your sound, dust, well setbacks, lighting, equipment, work hours, and things of that nature. When you can operate stormwater prevention plans, so for us operators, it put on a huge challenge to do something totally different that had never been done before. Is putting up noise wall around our drill sites. We had to educate people of exactly what noise is, as you can see with this slide right here. It gives you some idea about what we're talking about in decibel levels, trying to get people to understand exactly what a decibel level is. And we put it in more of a layman's term of understanding of people at a truck stop, coach yelling at a game. A lot of people can relate to that. We actually had to do noise studies around our drill sites and actually prove that we were well within the ordinance. This is a physical rig that was drilling over in the North Richland Hills area. It was our very first well to drill in the city of North Richland Hills. We actually helped educate those people, and all those people you see in those houses actually have mineral interest in those wells. These are some setback distances that they were requiring. We were trying to put this picture together to help them understand that they're trying to make us get 1,000 feet back from the wellhead to these people's houses. You would have to have 74 acres to do that. It's not quite easy to do that when you're dealing with 6 million people. We also have lighting that we had to do. This is a stage of the exploration, drilling, and production. You've got leasing that takes place, seismic studies, mobilization, site preparation, drilling, the demobilization of the drilling rig, the completion and fracking, installation of the infrastructure, meaning pipelines, surface facilities, and then actually flowing gas. There's lots of wells that are in the Barnett right now that have been shut in for a period of 5 to 7 years that have never produced gas to sales line because there was no infrastructure for gas sales. And that's one of the things we learned early on in the play is you got to have an artery for your gas sales. If not, you're going to be stuck stranded. You had huge investments in the ground with nowhere to get your money back. These are copies of some permits. This is a water board permit. This is a railroad commission permit. This is a City of Dallas permit. It took me 257 days to get 3 permits in the City of Dallas. They did not have an ordinance at the time I went in there, but they did have an ordinance that's called a mining ordinance on their books. And I went after the mining ordinance and permitted our well under the old mining ordinance while I helped them write and orchestrate their new ordinances they do have today. So we were the very first operator to actually permit 3 different wells in the City of Dallas. What I'm kind of going through the slide kind of quickly here is a production site plan and engineering plan that we have to put together. Are y'all still there?
Right here.
Okay. I think it was my slide that was doing that. I don't know what that was about. I apologize. These are some different areas. This is the Dallas Baptist University. Y'all may have seen some of this information in some news-related stories that's going on there. These are the 3 sites. 2 of them were actually on the Dallas Baptist University site. The other one was south of there. We actually plan to drill multiple wells off these pad sites. So you can see this is an AutoCAD drawing After we drill the first well, we may come back and drill 7 to 8 wells, sometimes up to 16 and 21 wells onto one pad site. So you have to plan on where you're going to do that. These are the old days of the drilling. These are the new days. Technology is what's really pushed this area. This is the Graham site. I showed you a picture earlier. These houses, the picture I showed you is where my cursor is pointing to right now, pointing back towards the north. This red dotted line that you see to the left side of the screen, that's the ExxonMobil line that we actually found. And this whole area is where our partnership with ExxonMobil actually started and originated, was right there. What we like to do is drill multiple wells underneath people's houses from one pad site. In the old days, what they used to do is drill several wells. You can see these locations scattered around the country with one frac pit. What we do now is we do one location with multiple wells off the pad site. This is that same wellbore that's actually in the North Richland Hills. You can see the urban environment that it is. This is some of the new technology. This is a flex rig. This rig can actually drill 22 wells from a pad site. They skid on this module that's down here on the ground. It actually can skid from well to well. From the time you plug down cement on the production string of one well and release the package of the BOP and move to the next one, it's about a time frame of around 12 to 15 hours, which is extremely unusual. Most conventional rigs have to rig everything down, lay it down, and move it out. The completing and fracking technology, this is another thing that's really increased in the Barnett Shale. This is actually pictures of a frac job that's actually going on. This is what your final production site looks like. And again, with the urban environment, we had to put walls and fences. This is what they make us do in the urban environment. I want to switch here and go to my next presentation and talk a little bit about the from an independent perspective. We not only do stuff here locally, but we also do things internationally. And this is Rick Harding that you see in the white shirt. This is his father. The family's been in the business for 55 years. Mr. Harding Sr. is still around. He's 84 years old and still active, coming up to our office and stuff, and very active in the business. This is a picture of, earlier I showed you about where all the shale plays and stuff are going on, and it'll lead us into, we were invited to go speak and talk in China. Just recently we got back from there in May of this year. This is actual presentation that we actually did for some of the Chinese people that were over there. We were invited from PetroChina to be the first oil and gas company to actually do the first gas shale symposium at Yonge University. And in doing that, we actually signed a memorandum of understanding with the PetroChina, and we're going to actually help evaluate the whole country of China. And this here is a part of that presentation I want to show you. This is a physical picture that in China, and you can see they have a tremendous pollution problem that's over there, and of course they have lots of people. It's an interesting statistic. There's probably in the world, every 1 out of every 5 people in the whole world is actually Chinese. And this is a picture of Beijing, right down from the Olympic Stadium. Beijing's got roughly 26 million people that's in it. These are some local stories that have been published lately about the problems that they've been having with global warming issues. In China, there's still lots of their coal plants that are burning. And one of the things we showed them is their consumption. And the trillion kilowatt hours of electricity where we are in the United States versus what China is. And they're going to look at between the year 2008 and 2020, we're going to see about a 38% increase, and they're going to see about a 117% increase, which is extremely huge. In the United States, you can see that where the production we have comes from coal. It's about 50%. Natural gas, you see here in the blue, this blue area is basically all this unconventional shale gas that's been developed in the last 10 years. And we think that that blue can actually be over here into China, because we think that the country has just as much shale gas, if not more, than what we have in the United States. Hydroelectric is a big play over there, and they're continuing to increase that. Wind, solar, and there's a few other items that they're working on. Those things take quite a while to build and to develop. Right now, 14% of the gas that's produced there in China. Another thing they have to worry about is how they're going to distribute their different products throughout the areas that need the different gas fields that they've got, the major wind fields that they've got. What we did is we took an aerial map, that same map that we looked at earlier about all the gas shale plays in the United States. China is roughly about 19,000 square miles larger than the United States, but it's very clear that if we can have this many gas shale potential plays here within the United States, it's more than likely they're going to have one or two, maybe even larger than what we have here in the United States. So it is a very interesting deal for them to ramp up and get to where they need to get for saving and helping with their people, their economy. Roughly, they have approximately 20,000 people that are needing jobs every day. And those people are graduating, and most of the people that we lectured are PhD graduate students at Yonge University, and very interesting people. These are some pipeline structures. They have a huge infrastructure now of putting up some additional pipelines of migrating and importing gas in from all around the other countries that you see that surround China. We actually visited and met with the president of this New Source Energy company. He is a gentleman that actually with PetroChina that invited us to come over and to put on this presentation and actually sign the arrangement and agreement with us. And in doing so, we actually did sign a memorandum of understanding. And also as May the 20th, this here is a picture of the entire group that was out there. There were about 70 people that was in this symposium. These are this is who I am when I'm dressed up. I'm not the way I look right now when y'all see on the webcam. I do dress up, and I apologize for not having a tie on today. This here is John Shelton. He is our president of our company we have up there, and this is Mike Berman, which is our petrophysics geophysicist. Dr. Shaik knows him very well. I've had visits. Matter of fact, I think he came out and visited y'all here this past year, so he knows Mike very well. These are some papers that we actually published in this presentation, and then put it up on our website. If y'all want to go to check, or anybody that's out there would like to go check up on some of the stuff that's going on over in China with some additional information on gas shale plays. This is us signing the memorandum of understanding with the president of Yonge University and RIPET. And small oil companies as we are, us independents can eventually get our picture on Times Square. This news was very, very huge. It actually made it to Times Square, so we're very proud of what we have accomplished. And I want to end this presentation with that, and I appreciate your time today. And if you have any questions or comments, I would be willing to take those.
Thank you. Okay. Let me bring the mic back. We have Jimmy.
Hello. I was just wondering, earlier you talked about horizontal drilling. I was just wondering, is that in any way like horizontal drilling? Since it's under
I didn't hear all the question. All I heard was about horizontal drilling. Are you wanting to know the whole time?
Okay, I was just wondering, like, earlier you talked about horizontal drilling, so I was wondering
I was just wondering, like, earlier you talked about horizontal drilling, so I was just wondering about in any way features.
Oh, because it's under people's houses.
Horizontal drilling, I didn't hear the question at all.
Oh, because it's under people's houses.
So I was just wondering if there was,
We
like...
actually do drill underneath people's houses. The only way...
I was just wondering if there was, like...
Jay, just keep talking through it.
I didn't hear all that question, but this has a to do with drilling underneath people's houses. What you need to understand is we drill approximately about 1.5 miles away from people's houses, and we can only drill underneath those people's houses. We actually sign a lease with them.
Sir, just close the mic.
You can't close the mic. He's typing it now.
It's typing in the question. Take off the mic. Turn it off. It doesn't matter. It's still going to get paid because of the delay. It doesn't make
a major question that we have to do with educating the public. When we first talk to people about drilling underneath their houses, drilling underneath schools, in and around schools, everybody's concerned that their house is going to fall in, there's going to be craters, it's going to damage their structure, their foundations. And that's all part of going up ahead of the application process and educating the public about, yes, we are going to be drilling underneath your house. We will be about 1.5 miles below the surface. This is not like drilling 10, 15 feet underneath your house. And that we do have safety precautions and safety means and measures put in place for controlling the wells while they're drilling. And it's all about educating is what it's about. I hope that you were able to hear that. You don't have any other questions?
Yes.
One of the interesting things we had in talking with people, we get a lot of flack of how much water we use, the water consumption we use on these wells. We will actually frack these wells with somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 million gallons of water. And when you first hear that number, you think that that's a large number. But in reality, it's actually pretty small. And I have a slide that we use when we're talking to the public that actually broke down exactly how much water consumption we use as individuals in and around our houses. And I actually can show that slide to you there. I don't know if y'all can see that on the presentation right here. Let me see if I can share that. I'm going to actually share that slide with you so you can see what I'm talking about. I apologize if it's taking a little bit of time. What you can see here is the...
Oh, sorry.
Can you see that slide?
Yeah, but you don't understand.
We can see your slide.
What you see here is the number one consumption of water based on this. This was actually out of the Dallas Business Journal. Was actually Texas Instruments, and then Southern Star Concrete Sabre. We come in at 500 wells. If you were to drill 500 wells in fracking year, we would fall into 4th place. So this kind of puts it in perspective of how much water consumption that people do use. Water is a very, very secure issue right now throughout Texas and all over into the New York State where the Marcellus play is going on right now. We have worked, and Hardy Company was actually one of the original founders of the Monterey Shale Water Committee meeting, where we actually look at how to reuse water for refracking and clean up water to try to enhance that issue. So it's constantly educating that's going on. Is there any other questions?
Like as an article company, like beyond just educating, what are you doing to actually move?
Like as an article company, like beyond just educating, what are you doing to actually move?
I think, what are you doing to try to educate the public?
No, I meant beyond educating.
Alternative fuel sources? Is that what the question is?
No, I meant beyond educating.
So that
Actually
make the biofuels and fossil fuels, so everything becomes more.
So that actually integrate biofuels and fossil fuels, so everything becomes more.
Well, one of the interesting things about the biofuels is that it takes a lot of, the technology I think is there for that. The cost output as far as what you get back on it is not there. But right now the easier supply source of the fossil fuels is what's out there. And I think the natural gas is probably what has been the most clean gas that there is. There's a big push right now for clean coal, which is interesting because I don't really view coal as clean coal, but there's a lot of push from the environmental side of that. A lot of people are looking at alternative, different means of wind generation and solar generation as well. So there's so many different things are made from our natural gas and oil products. You know, a lot of people think that it's just what we put our fuel in our vehicles, provide tires for our vehicles. They don't realize that it's in our medicines, our clothes, a lot of the food products and stuff are all, if it weren't for those type of products being generated to produce, they would never be created, actually. I did a presentation last year that was called The End of Cheap Oil about a year and a half ago, actually, when the price of oil was 40. And I had a picture of that I found in a magazine that shows exactly what all petroleum products are actually based on. So there's, you know, tennis shoes, clothes, medicines, more than just fuel for our vehicles.
Thank you, sorry for the delay.
Thank you, Dr. Gray.
Any other questions, Julie?
It's not on the.
No, this is off the vote.
One thing that I would encourage all of you,
It's not on the.
There you go.
Julie, can you still hear me?
Yes. We're going to type in another question.
We're gonna type in another question.
Okay. Julie, while you're typing that, one thing that I would encourage all the students out there is to try to be diversified in your education, your background, and your experience as you get out into the business and go to working. My background is actually field and office engineering, and I was very fortunate to be raised. I'm a 30th generation in the business. I have a 12-year-old son that's coming up that I'm going to implement his ideas and stuff into the business as well, because new minds and new education that always breeds on new technology and stuff, which actually helps all of us. So I would encourage you to try to get extremely diversified in your education and also your experience as well. Okay, the question was, if a problem occurs with a pipeline underneath the houses, what measurement do you have to resolve that problem? First of all, we don't have pipelines that are running under very many houses. The original pipeline had a 50-foot right-of-way that went through the entire metroplex, and people are not supposed to be putting or building houses or buildings or structures that are on top of that. So, technically, we don't have to worry about that. The smaller, what I call feeder lines that are going to the major lines, generally they're run into the right-of-ways where your sewer, water lines and stuff like that are run. And actually, we have all kinds of safety precautions and devices that are implanted on these pipelines that are shut down for high pressure, or if they get a rupture or a leak in the line, it's actually shut in on that occasion as well. And these pipelines are actually flown basically about every 2 weeks to a month by air. And actually, a lot of the pumpers and stuff that are actually working the sites, they will actually go by there on a day-to-day basis. So most of your pipelines are theoretically will not even be going under people's houses. The only thing that will be going under people's houses is the lateral well that's about 1.5 miles below the earth. And that's actually, they will never see it, never feel it.
Let's have Raina type the question.
mentioned the thing. Well, actually, the question of fossil fuels and shells, I consider fossil fuels part of shells. Everything that's developed with oil and gas is actually fossil fuels or some kind of generating of gas. Oh, here we go. Cost environment. Let me read this correctly. I think by going after the shell gases that we are, they're a lot cleaner burning. They're not as actually create as much problem as you do with the oil-bearing products that we have. But you still have to have oil to create a lot of the products that we use, not just oil and gas in your vehicles. That create a lot of the byproducts that come out of that are generated with, medicines, clothes, products that actually make your vehicles, and the machines that make the products to make the vehicles. So, I think it's really, there's been a lot of propaganda about just fossil fuels in general, getting rid of them, and I think that is, to me, it's virtually impossible to outrid the fossil fuels. You're going to have different ways of handling the byproducts and stuff that come out of that, and actually treating CO2 gases that we are now everybody's running rampant about. But again, dealing with the shale gases, you don't have a lot of those problems of that at all. It is cleaner burning, and I don't want to get into politics. I think we in the United States have really become accustomed of a lot of different things that when you travel abroad. I worked 6 years international in North Africa, and we take a lot of things for granted here. We think a lot of times we're entitled to a lot of things that we shouldn't really actually work for or try to accomplish. We just think somebody's going to provide it for us. But we all have to work together, blend together all of our products that we do generating in the businesses. We are working, our company also did with solar and wind generating. As well, we're trying to take some of the technology we use of leasing these small pad sites in urban environments and actually utilizing some wind generating capabilities. So we're trying to blend and be more diversified in it. It'd be very interesting to take a survey amongst the class of how many new people rode in one vehicle today coming to the class versus riding the public transit and stuff. And I think nothing that will eventually happen is we'll probably see more public transit as you see over in the UK nations. Judy, kind of questions, has it ever happened to you that someone who, for whatever reason, wants located drilling underneath their home is yes? How would you affect the process? We have lots of people that not everybody wants you to drill underneath their homes. It all boils down to the money. The leasing prices that we were paying for acreage last year, it started out in the neighborhood of $75 an acre about 10 years ago, and it escalated and peaked last year around August and September to well over $32,000 to $33,000 an acre. And we, as an independent, we thought that was just completely outrageous of what people were paying, and that's why we were trying to exit the play, because we did not. I've been through, this is my fourth cycle, and over the 30 years of the business that I've been, to see the oil prices go up and go down. We knew that the $140, $150 oil price was not going to stay forever, $12, $13 gas was not going to stay forever. So what happens is some people that don't want you to lease, you don't. There's some people that are out there that don't want to lease it, but once you educate them and find out what it is to financially benefit for them, it generally makes them come to the table at least. It's all about educating. You can't just go in and run over people and expect them to just take something for nothing. They don't want to be educated. I think it's right that everybody should be educated for the safety aspect of things is what we try to focus on. Are you still there, Julie?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you turn off the mic? Did you turn off the mic? You did?
You did?
I don't know. Apparently, since we're not getting echoes on it. Oh, you
Well, after going to China and spending 3 weeks in China, it is very clear to us that there's a huge shale gas reservoir that's located all within China. There's absolutely no doubt in our minds about it. We've actually pinpointed now about 8 of their basins. We're talking 75,000 square miles. That's one basin. And we're in the process, like I said, of going and helping them evaluate that. I think there's always some additional, we know where there's oil now that's offshore, up in the North Sloping area that Congress will allow us to get to. So yeah, there is some oil that we know that's out there. I think that what is going to be changing throughout the next 10 to 12 years, maybe 20 years, is the technology of how we extract that oil. As I mentioned earlier, most of the plays that we have seen in the last 32 plus years is you really don't get all the oil and gas that's there out to begin with. So I think there's going to be a big merge of going back into a lot of these old reservoirs and doing some additional possible horizontal drilling, a different technology that maybe some of you will come up with of how to extract the oil and gas products out of those reservoirs to try to get maybe 50% or 60% of the oil and gas that's in place. But as far as knowing where there's some that are tapped right now, if you know some, I'd like to know. We'd like to go. Most of the big places that I know of right now are being held up that Congress won't allow us to go do that.
Who's typing? Who's question?
Oh, I thought you were. Oh.
He was just waving.
I'll ask a question. Can you read me?
What? Dennis gonna ask a question?
Either. I think I want to know what's going to come out of this.
Merry Christmas.
Hello, sir.
What is it? Okay. Is that the one?
I like it. The question.
Period.
It's fine.
Very nice.
My daily job, if you were to ask my wife, is I never leave my job. One thing about this business has been more of a hobby for me as opposed to a job. I've never really looked at it as being a job. I work basically sometimes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A lot of it dictates and depends on what's actually going on. Like here today, I'm at this location. I left my house this morning at around 5:15 and flew out here. Drove 2.5 hours to the location, and I'll be here probably till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. The oil and gas business is extremely time-consuming. It's very, very hard on families. My job is I do a lot of different things. I don't just do just one particular thing. If it's drilling I can get involved with, or completions I get involved with, engineering, exploration, frac job, frac design. If I need to go publicly speak at engagements and stuff around the Metroplex and educate people, I do that as well. So I wear a multitude of hats at our business, and that's one reason that I had elaborated earlier is that I've been extremely successful in the 32 plus years that I've worked in this business. You always have these cycles that go up and down, and with my background and my education, I've been able to keep extremely diversified and actually control my own destiny as opposed to allowing others to control that destiny for me.
What will Rick ask me?
No.
You can't say
I'm gonna happy face.
No. All right, I'm gonna turn our mic back on, and so. All right, thank you.
I just wanted to say the last thing is thank everybody recycle, try to reuse as much as possible. It'll help us all. And I appreciate y'all's time and consideration and asking me to come join you today.